Hey, coaches, welcome to Championship Culture. We've got a fantastic guest for you tonight. Mike Joyner is the athletic director and head baseball coach at Wake Forest High School in North Carolina. And Mike is widely regarded as not only an elite level athletic director, but also one of the best baseball coaches in the state. Coach, I sure do appreciate you coming on and doing this with us, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to get away. I was down at a wrestling match, and I'd be more than willing to come down here and talk some baseball. So
Sounds good. Sounds good. So let's jump into it. Question number one: can you give a 1-minute elevator introduction of yourself?
yeah, I'm from Duplin County. I was born and raised in Faison, right there near you, and I went to North Duplin High School, graduated there in 1989, and went to East Carolina and graduated there in '93. Started my coaching career at Selma Middle School in January of '94, and I was baseball, football, and coach and athletic director there. Then I went to Smithfield Selma High School to be a assistant football coach and head baseball coach in 1996, and was there for 16 years as the head baseball coach. I coached football for 7 of those, and then the last 8 years I was athletic director. Then for 1 year in 2012 and 2013, I was actually the head baseball coach and assistant football coach at Hopton High School, and then I got the athletic director job at Wake Forest High School, and was just the AD for 2 years, and then got the baseball, took that over over for the last 7. So and I live in Franklin, North Carolina, with my wife Cindy, who's a receptionist here at the school, and my son Zach is a sophomore baseball player at Lewisburg College.
Awesome, awesome. And you got the now everyone's going to be jealous when I say this, but you got your big retirement coming up next month, and then you're going to be moving over to a private school and double dipping. I know you're excited about that.
Right. Yeah. The opportunity presented itself at Carvance Academy, which is like 20 minutes from my house, last May. Not too intense, but there was some talking going on, and it presented itself again right after Thanksgiving, and it was too good to turn down. So I just going to be able to in the tenure here at Wake Forest on January 31st, and the next day I'll be there. So on February 1st, so give me a chance to draw a little retirement and draw salary, and have a lot less going on. It's a small school with about, I think, 8 or 9 varsity sports, so, and not a whole lot of not a huge teaching assignment at all, just more or less supervision stuff in the gym during the day.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I know you're excited about that. I bet your family's excited about that too. Let's jump into this thing, because Coach, you got a lot of experience, and we got a lot of guys on here that want to steal your good ideas. So let's start with question number 2. What is your definition of culture?
I think culture in your program has got to start with the values you hold, what you want to instill in your kids, as far as what kind of people they're going to be and what kind of values they have. You coach kids that come from a lot of different parenting styles and a lot of different backgrounds and situations, and then you kind of instill that this is how we're going to consistently be. And then you got to mold their attitudes. You can't have attitudes all over the place. So, you got to have those on the same page. And then it all comes back down to what you want your goals to be. I started, rebuild a program at Smithfield Selma, and you got to start with small goals up to them. Same thing with Hopton and Wake Forest. Both those, all 3 of those programs, when I got them, were a little down, and so you got to become goal oriented, and then you got to be able to compete. Competition is part of your culture, being competitive. And then last thing I try to do is when I've gone into these 3 different programs, you got to establish positive relationships with the parents and the players. They got to trust you. They're not going to play hard for you and trust you unless you have those good relationships, and they got to be able to come to you when they need something, and not feel intimidated by that. So keeping that communication line is very important. I think the other thing, you can have different types of culture depending on what you're doing. I mean, you can have a fun culture if you're coaching a rec team, but at our level, our main goal is to not win at all costs, but to win. And that kind of thing. And then I think positive, just positive culture is the big thing, keeping things positive. A lot of times you inherit situations that have been negative, and you got to turn those into positive situations. So, and then, once again, dealing with individuals in baseball, dealing with individual personalities is probably more so in baseball than say like a football team where you're more team driven, because baseball is a very individual sport and you have to mold that into a team concept.
Now, I've never coached well, I coached baseball for like 2 weeks, filling in for someone one time, but I always thought that the parent situation was a lot tougher in baseball than it was in football. What's your take on that?
So outside looking in, I would say that's probably true, because we get our kids for 24 games a year and travel and showcase baseball, get those for 50 or 75 games a year, and they're paying good money to play. So when they're when they're in that showcase, they feel like they have the right to kind of maybe act a certain way. But I just have some kind of guidelines with parents that I follow, and they're pretty simple. I don't discuss playing time, I don't discuss coaching philosophy, and I don't discuss positioning. So if there's anything else they want to talk about, then I'm good. And if they make it in my office and they start talking about playing time, and I just tell them it's going to be a short meeting. So, but I think those are the three things that are kind of non-negotiable with me with parents, and that's served us pretty well. And I've always had really good relationships with parents at all three head coaching stops. So I think that works.
Awesome. All right. So here's the big one. Question number 3. What are the 3 best things you do to build culture in your program?
I got 3 concepts I use, or 3 terms, and I've used them at every stop. First of all, we're gonna outwork people. When we're going to outwork people, we're going to try to outwork people in the off season. We're going to try to outwork people during the season, during the summer. So that hard work really has to get instilled. Our practices are going to be longer than most. They're going to be filled with detail. They're going to be filled with activity, and we get after it pretty good. And I know, I'll just use an example. When I first came to Wake Forest, first day of baseball tryouts, I wasn't the coach, and I walked out of the field house at 4:30, and our team was coming up the road to leave. Sorry, I have an automatic light in my office. If I black out a couple times, I don't move for like a minute, it goes off. But anyway, and I just couldn't believe, an hour and a half, and they had done everything they needed to do. So, and then I think just being, determination is another key part of our culture. You got to be determined to meet your goals. You got to be determined to be on time. You got to be determined to be disciplined and thrive on the structure. And then you got to be, to be successful in sports, you got to be willing to sacrifice something. I mean, you can't work a full-time job and be a baseball player. You can't. So you got to make choices, and sometimes those require sacrifices, and that even goes into with the coaches. We make sacrifices, and with the parents, they make sacrifices. So, but those have always been my building blocks of my program culture, and I've kind of stuck through it through the years. I'm a strong believer in structure too. There's a practice plan daily. The kids have that available to them. The coaches have that available to them. We'll usually work on that first thing in the morning, then I'll email it out to the coaches, and it'll be posted in the dugout on most days. And then I think then it just comes down to discipline. Discipline's a byproduct of your culture. I mean, if you got those things in place, then the discipline part's easy, and being rigid with that. So and then the other thing I kind of always am big on, if we're going to be baseball players, we need to look like baseball players. We're all going to have haircuts. We're all going to be shaved. We're going to dress the same. Game day, practice day, I have specific parts of that. So I think all those things just kind of add into, what you do. I've also had, I was fortunate enough to play for Ken Avent Sr. at North Dupin High School. That's Ken Avent Jr.'s dad. Me and Ken Avent Jr. and I were high school classmates. And three things Senior taught me, I don't know if he ever actually said it, but three things I gathered from just being a coach is you have to have a system that you believe in. And you know that because you have a system you believe. I've seen you everywhere you've coached, and your system is you believe in it and you run it and you're successful with it. You better have a prepared depth chart. If somebody gets injured, somebody's got to be ready to step in. And then you got to be competitive. I never walked on the field at North Dupin High School in a baseball, football, whatever game I ever played in when we thought we were going to lose. So I think that's part of it too.
That's awesome, Coach. Here's the one I've been kind of looking forward to because I've never had a guy this close to retirement. I've had a couple that were my age, getting starting to see it, but never had. I mean, you've had a super successful career, highly regarded, and now you're right here on the tail end of it. I know you're, and then going to double dip. So, but the $1 million question is, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first got started?
I thought about that when you added to a list of questions. I think there's a million things, but I think when we're young coaches, we have to be full of fire and almost and to get our point across, because sometimes, my first head coaching gig, I was 25. So I think what I've learned is you don't have to yell and scream and kick dirt and spit to get your point across. I think that's probably what I'm going to go with. It's funny because, I've never really considered myself like the term strict kind of comes to mind because I just believe in what we do creates that, and we don't have to really ever intervene. But some of the comments I've been getting from my players were, you were always strict, but you got your point across, and and we love you for it and stuff like that. So I guess if I'm remembered as someone that was strict, and that's better than being someone that was a pushover. So, but I have learned there's, and especially with today's kids, they just don't react to as much to the yelling and the screaming and kind of getting on them hard. It's sometimes even in baseball, it's it's better just to pull the kid aside and kind of deal with them one-on-one. And I'm not saying I'm not out in the middle of the 15 players at the field and we're running a drill wrong and I don't get a little loud still, but it's just in a different way, because I don't think today's kids respond to that as well as we did when we were coming along. So I guess that's the big thing I've learned. So.
Awesome. Let me go off script. What's
Okay.
what's the best message you've gotten from a former player? One that sticks out in your mind, memorable.
I've gotten a lot here lately because Facebook's a big deal and they're all commenting and everything. But I put a Facebook post out the other day. I mowed my field, I said probably for the last time, and I said, you guys, keep me in your prayers. I was, and be there for me as I go through this change. And I guess one guy said, Coach, you were always there for us, so we got your back. So and there was 4 or 5 other comments along those lines. So I've just always said, if I can do something in a kid's life to make a difference at some point in their life, and or steer them in the right direction when they're 17, so they're going to make a good choice when they're 25, then my job was done anyway. It's not always about the championships and the wins and losses and that kind of thing, but I think that's the most important thing. And I'll say a quote that I learned from my high school coach once again. Every day's payday when you're working with kids. So, and I've always kind of believed that.
Awesome. I saw that post. That's what I've been wanting to get you on this thing for a long time. And I saw that post. I was like, "Ooh, man, I better get up with him before he rides off into the sunset." When you said that, I was just thinking, you were 25 when you got your first head coaching job. my first head coaching job, I think I was 28. And because of Facebook, I stayed off of Facebook for a long time. And then I got on it just to like wish my wife a happy birthday one time, and former players started contacting me. And I had a kid from my very first team contact me, and we were talking back and forth, through Facebook. And so I'm thinking in my mind, he's like early 20s. And I said something, something about kids, about his kids. And it turned out he was like 45 years old already.
Yeah. I think my first players are, let's see, first high school team I had, those kids have got to be 97, let's see, 13, 33, 20, 43, 44. Like, I mean, there's some of them. There's a kid I coached that is at Triton High School now that is nearing retirement because, he was 18 and I was 25. So, I mean, he's got 23, 24 years in education.
And that was the connection. It's like, man, I was only like 5 years older than these kids when they were coming through.
So, when you're in education, the kids never get older. We get older, but the kids we're dealing with they never get older. So,
right.
And the other thing I have a hard time with too is, I'm like, when I was 25 and a 42-year-old man comes up to me and wants to talk about his kid, I'm like, I'm a little intimidated, and now I'm older than everybody. So it's like, I think I've lived enough. We can have a little better conversation here. So
yeah. The parents are getting younger. That's
kids
stay the same, but the parents are getting younger.
There's very few parents you deal with by this point in time that are older than you. So.
All right, Coach. Well, you did fantastic, man. I sure do appreciate you doing this. The last one is contact information. Are you on Twitter?
I am, yes. Mike Joyner 22.
Mike Joyner 22.
Yeah, Mike Joyner 22.
I'll put that in the show notes so that people got a way to get up with you. And any final words, any final thoughts that you want to share, anything you want to promote?
No, I don't really have anything to promote. I just want to say, I don't know who all's out there watching, but through the nearly 30 years doing this, I've developed a lot of really close friends in this coaching business, and been a lot of ups and downs. When you coach against each other, there's always going to be some stress, but we've always been able to maintain friendly. A lot of friends I went out with, to dinner last night with a good coaching friend of mine. We wanted to get together before all this happened. So, but just anybody's out there watching that I've been associated with, you've been a part of this career, and I sincerely thank you for it. So.
Awesome, Coach. Awesome. Thank you so much, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you.